the empire is building. There's a few platforms now. It's very exciting to see this grow.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that at the end of the last show with Crystal Pardo, which was incredible. It was like 88 downloads in 45 minutes. we got one.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people coming in now. Let's see. Hang on. All right, I'm going to play the intro and give people time to come in. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Welcome to 2021, everybody, on the front line of the apocalypse with Fiona. So you mentioned something about, as we were waiting for people to come on, you mentioned something about all these platforms popping up everywhere and how great that is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I spent a lot of time exposing myself to talk shows and different platforms, and it just seems like, the frequency that feels right, and this is where my question is going to go, is people just talking about what's going on with themselves and from their own vantage point, as opposed to theoretical hypotheses type, conversations. Just talking about what's happening and what that experience is like from the human level. Does that align at all with the platforms that you referred to that are popping up everywhere?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And the work that we do and trying to talk to people and get messages out, we need to utilize this technology. And you get down one pathway and it doesn't quite feel right, you skip to another one. And there's just so many different opportunities now to, align frequencies and get the message out to the people that are open to listening to it. And technology is just amazing what's going on with developments and what's becoming available to us. It's exciting times, but, there's always the balancer as well, trying not to get all consumed by it and to come back to the real life stories.
Yeah.
You go through Facebook feeds and you see webinar after webinar of people preaching and teaching all different things. And then all of a sudden something will jump out in your live feed where it's something like you and me having a chat in your lounge room about, holy shit, what's going on with you? Like, this week's been crazy. Instead of, espousing a lot of technical stuff and teaching. So these real life conversations are more shifting than any course I think you could do for a week,
Exactly. Yeah, and keeping in mind too that as time goes on, there's more and more mixed energetic bombs going off, which are actually blessings, triggers, whatever you want to call them, as we refine or align, with our incoming and expanding wisdom and knowledge and love and all that stuff. I was just watching a clip from, and this goes to what you were saying a second ago, part of what you were saying, but I was watching a clip recently, just in the last few hours, of Laura Eisenhower and her show Dark to Light. She was talking to a lady who wrote a book called 1,000 Pieces. Now, I didn't watch a whole lot of it, but she was very credible. She had been in sex trafficking. Her daughter was in sex trafficking. I mean, there's a couple of, kind of a horrific storyline, but she seemed very balanced and very centered. And one of the things she said that really jumped out at me was, she said, don't follow anyone. not even me. Do your own research. And she kind of described what you just did. Glide through there. The energy will find you. The information will come, and just pick up what you need from here and there and everywhere that you go. Does that kind of follow up with what you were saying?
Yeah, it really does. And, we reach out for information. We're just totally surrounded by it. It's accessible at our fingertips at a second. But it's everybody's perspective that you're reading about. And it's those moments that you perhaps get triggered and you take that inward, that you're doing the most learning, because anything I learn from anyone else is going to be taken with a grain of salt, and see what sits comfortably in myself. My dad always used to say to me, listen to people's advice and thank them politely for it, but then go away and do whatever the hell you're going to do anyway. You might take a word of advice from each person and then take that inside and see what you're going to do with it from there.
Yeah, such is the obstinance of a human being that had an ego implanted. I mean, it's like our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. That whole thing, the polarities, the duality of it, bringing them together. Yeah, we just had this show with Crystal Pardo, going back to what you were saying, and she is very galactic. I mean, as galactic as anyone I've ever met, and she was talking about some really in-depth stuff, very, very interesting from an energetic standpoint. I resonate with it. It's very interesting, but and I said the same thing. I said, from a higher perspective, can you look at all of this and just take it with a grain of salt, knowing that we're here to learn, we're here to expand, and not get caught up into too much into any story, regardless of what it is. And just kind of take a breath and step back and chill a little bit. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, you just take it with a grain of salt at some point, right?
Well, correct. I mean, depending on what you feel your mission or your passion is to follow in this life as well. Perhaps there are set individuals who are here to purely focus on things like that, and to bring that down for the rest of us. Me, myself, I bridge worlds every minute of every day. It's kind of like life breathes me. I do whatever I have to do at the time. I'm surrounded by 3D things. I have 3D children. I have jobs, things like that. But then with a click of a finger, you can drop down into something deeper or higher as well. So, we all do what we have to do. One of the things that I live, I suppose, is just to stay in that place of calmness or neutral observation. And when I need to react, I react. And that, I suppose, allows me to have a lot calmer life than many people. And that, to me, is key, to be able to find a way to just straight away drop into your body, into your heart, and block out all the triggers or everything that's going around you, and just see how it feels inside. The work that I do is very tapped into my body. I use muscle testing. I think we've talked about this before. Morgan perhaps uses muscle testing as well.
Uses muscle,
yeah, and it gets to the point where, different modalities I've learned, and working remotely like this over the system, I'm finding different ways of tapping into the body without using something as direct as a physical body in front of me and a muscle test, or all the different ways that we do it. And it's the sense that you change in your body. And when you can sit in it, when it's how it's charged, positively, negatively, or neutral, and tuning into those, then I suppose you work out what to react to, what to look inward to, and then what to just wash over your head and carry on with what you're doing. Everything isn't going to resonate to all of us. So
exactly, it's interesting, because I was watching another video last night, and it was that guy David Hawkins, the one that wrote or that created the map of consciousness. And and I've been watching some of his video clips. They're pretty old, but they're pretty interesting. But one of the things he was saying was he was kind of talking about what is meditation, but really in the context of having a meditative state as you go moment by moment through life, right? Which is kind of what you're talking about. And he was
Yeah.
just basically saying that, allow the thought to come in, see what it's associated with, and just use the meditative process of surrendering it, in his words, surrendering it to God. No matter what it was, if it was a sensation, if it was a thought, let it be there. Don't force it out. Just surrender it, surrender it, surrender it. And I was watching that and I was wondering, okay, so do I need to identify things past a certain degree or find a space closer to what he was describing, just feeling it until it's the nothingness that it really is, right? I don't know. It just had me to
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I love his work. I follow it quite intensely, and a lot of the kinesiology streams that I use work with his basis, the spiral of consciousness arising, and this is what we, I suppose, see ascension is the consciousness being expanded and elevated.
Yeah.
And really, we've come from a world where we are reacting. We're reacting on the charge of emotions. Something happens to us in our life, and we react to it with a chemical response, and that's your emotion.
Yeah.
With that emotion, then you can either just let that electrical charge filter through your nervous system and earth out, take from the experience whatever you're going to, or you can resist it. And that power versus force that David talks about a lot too is key to this ability to be able to stay in the flow. Because as soon as you react to that stimulus with a charged emotion, you've thrown something up to protect yourself from it happening again, a belief system.
Yeah.
So we're doing this all of our life, and before you know it, we're surrounded by these belief systems, and we've got a tunnel vision like this. I only believe in this because of all these other belief systems. When you realize those belief systems protected you for a moment in time or a period in your life, and they've done their job, we can drop them and fall into this space of just being open to see what's
really
going on, non-reactionary until we really need to.
Yeah, it's really it really comes down to, and I don't know if it's the right word, because I know there's a couple of different connotations to the word surrender, but like, what can you do to me? If I am the I am, what can you do to me? The only thing you can do to me is in other words, I can use my imagination one of two ways. I can either use it in some paranoia or light paranoia or suspicion or whatever you want to call it, or I can be in a, and I'm not saying it's a simple state to be in, but I can be in a conscious effort of surrender. I mean, like, if we are what we know that we are, we can start to look at this experience for what it really is, instead of all this judgment and condemnation. And you know what I mean? It just seems to be getting so it seems to be getting so personal.
Yeah, it does. And, everyone is kind of being called to stand up for what they believe in or draw the line in the sand and take a side sort of thing. And it's the amount of life force energy we waste on this is crazy. People are exhausted and ill. And if you just drop all that bullshit.
Right? You can't create
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's that duality again, the reactionary versus the creator aspect of ourself. And when we're wasting so much life force energy protecting ourselves and defending ourselves, we've not got much left to create in.
I wonder if the emotional quality or quotient of the human, given all of what you're saying, because it's very true. We spend our life in emotion. Maybe we could call it unconscious emotion. But I wonder if there's a connection between conscious, aligned, emotion, love, or whatever you want to call it, and creation, that maybe this incarnation gives us an opportunity that others don't. In other words, the human emotion being positive versus being a negative.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, Todd, this is what I've actually been diving into for the last 12 months. We've talked a few times before. I don't know if you remember, but I'm very techie. I get into lots of experimental things. I've got an IT kind of scientific minded husband who, you know, I kind of relearnt quantum physics so I could try and explain what I do to him with healing. And that's funny, just as a side note, it got to the point where he said, look, honey, I feel what you're doing. You know, my pain in my knee is gone or whatever. I don't need to know how it works. And that was
Right.
like a weight lifted off my shoulder. And it's something that I've experienced too in the last 12 months. I've been quite quiet on social media because I've gotten to the point that I don't need to explain to people what I do or sell it to the masses. The people that need what I can offer just come, to the point where I just couldn't fit any more people in, and have just opened up the book again.
Wow.
But just going back to that, the emotion statement and the creation, you know, this is so exciting for me because I also do photography. I always said I painted with light. But I got onto this biofield viewer or imaging system where I could take photos and run it through software, which would pick up the density of the light between the subject and the camera and actually show not an aura, but it would show the color, the frequencies around me, depending on what I was thinking. So you can actually see this on my website if anyone's interested. But I went through a series of experiments where I was photographing myself in a normal state and then a meditative state, channeling divine energy, channeling healing energy, and the color change was just fantastic.
Is that right?
To be able to capture it.
What's your website? What's the name of your website?
The website is mindyourmatterhealing.com.
Mind your matter.
Mind Your Matter Healing.
All right, hang on.
Because this is what I'm all about, the power of the mind amplified with the frequency of love from the heart. We can create, we can change our matter. Wow. And it's so exciting when you actually can access the technology to show this to people. And if you do look at my website, you'll see a series of photos I took of my poor husband. He's my guinea pig sometimes. And it was, you know, just be cool and I'll take a photo. Now think of something exciting and calm. And again,
it's kind of like Dr. Emoto working with the water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've done that experiment with my children as well, because to me, the first thing we all need to do is drink healthy living water. Water is key. Water is consciousness and memory to me. So yeah, that's the first building block, I believe, is good, healthy living water. And then these emotions, you know, controlling the mind, sitting in that space, that frequency of love, unconditional love, acceptance in the heart. It's amazing what you can do. You can create, you can manifest instantly, you can heal instantly. We just need to be open, dropping all the belief systems that this can't happen, and be ready to see the miracles of what we can actually do as humans. We're freaking amazing.
That's right. So just using your experience as an example, like I remember talking to you a few months ago, I think it was the last time we talked, and you were kind of localizing yourself. You were getting in, I think you were going to work and you were getting involved, you know, with the community, you know, kind of like you said earlier, 3D. And then you just said a while ago that you kind of backed off social media for about 9 months, which is probably the same timeline. But like, in regard to what you said at the very top of the show about how you go through your day and bridging worlds, how is that for you? Is it all done on the surface in the 3D interactions that you have, or do you pop in and out, so to speak, in terms of what you can see from the eyes of other aspects of yourself, other dimensions, timelines, that type of thing?
Yeah. Well, I've had to be able to do a 3D job, so to speak. So last time we spoke, I was actually working at a medical center for a dentist and working with them a little bit holistically on the TMJ, you know, the meridians with the teeth and that sort of thing. we actually got so many more clients because I was giving Reiki to people in the waiting room, because people are terrified of dentists.
Right.
So it was really cool to see how, how we could calm them down before they even got in the dentist chair. But there's something that I can see energy around people. I can see bands of energy in the environment, ley lines and things like that. And that's something that I do have to shut off a lot when I'm working and out there, because, the things that are around us, energy-wise, it can be a little bit unsettling when you're trying to hold a normal conversation or do a normal job. So that's where I do have to, and I've got some pretty quick, amazing techniques to go in and out of being grounded and then being elevated, depending on what I need to do, whether I'm, getting children breakfast or whether I'm, conducting a shift for someone.
You got a nice multi-dimensional lifestyle with a human multi-dimensional involved. I get the feeling that you probably don't really pay any attention or much at all to what's going on the global stage. I don't. Am I right about that? I mean, where you don't just you don't even.
I have people tell me what's going on in the news. It's like, oh, really? I didn't need that in my field of information, but thanks. You can keep all your stuff over there. I don't need to know.
But
I tap in occasionally when I need to, but otherwise that's somebody else's show. It's not for me. I've got enough going on.
When you tap in, are you tapping in into the field, or are you tapping in like to the internet news? When you say you tap, you need to.
Well, a little bit of both.
Okay.
So, I connect every morning and see what I need to know for my day and whatever is going to be in my field that I need to deal with. And then occasionally, I need to ask someone around me what happened in the news. Do I have to wear a face mask when I go to the supermarket? That's the sort of, because otherwise I don't care and I don't know. I'm in my own little bubble and dealing with what I have to. But
Before the show started, you said, I said, how's it going? And you said, well, I was jumping on the trampoline trying to deal with the energy coming in. What kind of energy do you feel? Is it? I mean, I feel like, and this is not the first time, but all my cells are dancing. Like,
oh, mate,
explain it.
Yeah.
Is it just a lot of energy? I mean, it's nothing heavy, obviously, because you've got a nice.
Yeah, no, there's just so much going on. There's so much, energy is just light with information in it. And we have so much information coming to us at the moment on the light from, the sun and other aspects of the universe. So we're all being pretty well charged. Our biophotons, so to speak, are ready for information at the moment. And when big things are about to happen, I get a buzzing or a vibration through me. And since the 28th of December,
do you have one? Yeah,
well, I was going to say, since the 28th of December, my body has just been buzzing, my whole body, because sometimes it will just be a part of my body or my spine. And have you heard of restless legs or ever had restless legs?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's something I've had since I was a child, but at the moment it's like a restless body. And when you have restless legs, it's like your blood's running electric or something. It's difficult to explain, isn't it? But
I got you on that. Yeah.
It's like my whole body's trying to burst out of its skin or something at the moment. And this time of the year is quite high vibe for me normally anyway. It's actually my mother's birthday today, who passed away 8 years ago. And then it's my birthday on the 8th of January. So this is normally a big time of information for me.
So you're
my mother and I.
Yeah,
fully. Yeah, I'm waiting for what's going to happen when I get my release. And as I say, it's just getting higher and higher every day. So I'm just waiting for something to happen.
I am too. I can feel it. Does it? And by the way, Franco De Nicola has always had really good, consistent intel. He mentioned the 29th was big. I think we actually did a show either that day, and it was huge. And then I think he mentioned the 3rd, was kind of the same energy, but the 6 was something even bigger, like that was
Mm.
inputted. But anyway, yeah. But
That's
do you
funny
think
because when I checked in this morning, I was basically just getting the message, just hold on, give us another 24, 48 hours. So,
that would put us on the
yeah,
6th? So,
I might have to ask someone what happened in the news tomorrow.
uh, do you feel like what you're experiencing, what you're describing is vibrating since the 28th, and that energy being infused? Do you feel like it's more personal or collective?
I think it's collective.
Yeah, too. Yeah.
Just recently, I've had family and friends that have sat down and talked to me about metaphysical issues which they have never even contemplated in their life.
Wow.
People are really starting to, I suppose, get tired of the idea that we have no power,
Yeah.
and are starting to understand and be open to information. And you know what it's like, as soon as you present yourself as open to learning something else, it's there on your doorstep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's crazy times.
I'm with you on that, and I get the feeling too, the knowing or whatever you want to call it, or the glimpses would probably be a better way to say it. The glimpses
Yeah.
of the what we might call it, well, the skills and abilities that you alluded to. It's available to everybody. What we might call supernatural. Like I'm getting the feeling stronger and stronger and stronger that it's accessible. Like it's so accessible. We're so close that what we'll be able to do, what we can do, is extraordinary. Like it's life changing. It's world changing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the feeling I'm getting. I can't really talk any more about it in terms of like what's it about, but that's just my feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I'm the same, Todd. It's we really are on the brink of just people allowing this to come through, Todd. As with the whole belief system thing, we're taught, no, you won't be able to access this sort of these sort of skills unless you meditate and you're vegetarian and you do all these other things. These are all beliefs, and when you can drop them and just fall into the knowing, then
Yeah,
we can sense the power.
it's
But
extraordinary.
it's hard to say to people because people are highly charged
Yeah.
about what's going on and even about themselves. Belief systems create our ego, and we're allowed to have a bit of it.
Well,
But I do
you
think we
know,
need to check in what's relevant at the moment,
yeah,
and what we can let go of.
and like we talk about multidimensionality, but if we look at the conditioning, the programming, whatever you want to call it, how we set this up, whatever, there is a shitload of of programming, of layers, of belief systems, of I mean, it's just like a smorgasbord. But there
Yeah.
does seem to be a lot, like you were talking about your family members or friends who'd never said anything about metaphysical stuff. There does seem to be, a very quickly expanding level of proof, I guess, with examples such as yours, that we're over the 50% marks. We're gathering steam, and it just seems like what's happening on the outside, or what I would say on the global stage, or whatever, is just becoming less and less and less and less of a fear, of a threat, of even a consideration of reality that is coming into phase. I think, what is that? It's really nothing. What am I? Oh my God! Wait a minute. I don't know. It's hard to explain from my point.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I use humor a lot to diffuse that sort of thing, and like I know there's intense things going on in the world that need to be handled, but again, perhaps back to that David Hawkins attitude of power versus force.
Yeah.
If you're pushing for change, you're going to meet force, and your
Yeah.
push had better be damn strong to be able to knock that over. And if you can rest more in, as I say, the field of acceptance and doing what you can do, what's put in front of you, we're going to get a lot more change. I've got a 14-year-old girl who is going through the point of learning what the world's like and saying, oh my God, I feel so insignificant.
Yeah.
And one thing I said is, well, we kind of are, you know, if we, and not to make people feel disempowered, and particularly my daughter, but if you feel insignificant, it means you are. If you're worried about the environment, you're throwing your hands up because the world leaders aren't doing anything, you've got to make the change yourself, mate. Get out of bed 5 minutes early and walk to school.
Yeah.
You know, don't ask me to drive you.
Yeah.
And this is the same with all of us. You know, be the change that you can in your own environment. And there are others that will fly the world flag for sure. You know,
it's
I
like
work
that.
a lot. I
Go
work a
ahead.
lot with children and sexual abuse survivors as well. You know, you mentioned the other person you were listening to coming out of sexual slavery, and you know, that's something that I'm not going to fight on the world stage, but I'm open to working to people locally. So at the moment, 60% of my clients are people who have gone down that story in their life.
What is the, I mean, from a practitioner's standpoint, like what is, just in summary, like what is the level of impact that type of experience has on, you know, a human hybrid soul, like the people you treat?
Well, it's part of your scaffolding, you know, depending when it's happened in your life. But normally it happens, you know, in the first 10 years of people's lives, the people that I'm working with anyway. The first time it happens, I mean, it becomes an integral part of who you are. It creates these belief systems. It changes how you think, how you react, how you express emotions. You know, a lot of us will say things about our personality like, oh, I'm a strong personality, or I'm argumentative, or I'm just forgetful. You know, we'll have a label on ourselves. But these are trauma mechanisms, you know, responses to trauma that we've adapted to be able to survive, I suppose. So it's a huge part. And when you're dealing with someone, you know, when you're trying to help them, not so much healing them, but holding space for them to heal themselves, you're building them from the ground up again, really. And it's again neutralizing a lot of those belief systems that you don't need anymore to protect yourself. You know, you're not a 6-year-old hiding from people anymore.
Well, I mean, because if you look at, like, for instance, like say somebody that had a childhood where they were physically beaten, you know, say a few times a year, you know, by one of their parents or whatever, and I can see the impact there. But with the sexual thing, it looks to me like this is a deep, deep program that actually creates a separation from your body, you know, and kind of moving away from the holiness of the body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like almost like you're I don't know how to say it, but where I see like somebody being beaten, unless their parents tell them, hey, you're fat, you're this, you're that, and there's some charge given that way. But it just seems like a really deep-rooted thing, and it seems like the body is a really important part of what we're doing here, you know, without the words. I'm just saying the body being aligned, the body being loved, honored, and respected. And a lot of these programs, are probably the sexual ones that you're talking about, being the deepest dividers, you know.
Yeah. The body, you know, when people are going through something like that, there is a complete disconnect with the body. There's escapism into the mind. So you're not, you know, recording everything that's going on in the body. And so you can ignore.
When you say escapism into the mind, are you talking about is that even a good description? Are you talking about the mind that you might associate with the human, or the mind of the higher aspects, the higher self, that type of thing?
Well, often they go straight to the higher aspect. So, you know, when you talk to people, and I regress them through ages as well, sometimes they will go to a fantasy in their mind, which, and these are people that don't walk the worlds of multidimensionality as well. So, you know, they might go to what they believe is just a little escapism story. But to me, when I tap in deeper, it's straight to the higher self, protecting them cloaking them in fantasy, so there isn't. So it's a way of our higher self protecting the human mind, or else you'd go mad. And that happens a lot, and people don't realize that at times of trauma and distress, often people say, I don't remember what happened. It's like the higher self came and enveloped you for protection.
Do you think that
you might have a different projection put over you and a different memory, and that's something that's difficult to peel back to.
So like everybody has certain levels of blackout periods, or no recall, stuff stored in the subconscious but not accessible consciously unless you really try or get a treatment.
And some of it, like the body is a storage mechanism for all of this too. So people can't often access memories from the mind. But for example, when I ask them to put their hand over their spleen and their eyes in an upward position to the left and breathe deep, the memory comes.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty bizarre. And then sometimes when you're trying to neutralize the charge in a memory for someone, again, you can get their eyes to go into a different position, use the breath, and the charge in the memory goes. The memory's still there, but the response, the physical response isn't. Because when you have a memory, it's either a positive or a negative one. And our body is our guidance system to lean towards it or pull back from it. So when you can neutralize that, that's when we can work to solve people's pain and illness. And that to me is the connection, mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because I know you're very multi-dimensional, multi-vibration, whatever you want to call it.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I do, absolutely. I would say, somebody that has a wide berth of experience across dimensions, timelines, whatever you want to say that. But at this point, like I know there's been a ramp up. I can't remember all the details. I remember some of the details of our past talks. But yours, I think, like pretty much everybody, has been like a progression. Information came in, you integrate, it would be a year, a month, a week. And so here we are in 2021. Are you feeling more of your physicality, your humanness now than you were before, or vice versa?
Yeah, no, more physicality now. So perhaps a few years ago, I was very much more in the mind and the upper dimensions. But as I say, I have to let life take me where I need to be at the time. So, I can't be too much in the realms, and, I've got to be present with my family and what's going on, to be a good influence to them as well. But it's funny, there's one thing that I work on with people, and it's called personal hologram points. So I work on the human as a hologram, and we all, I believe, come into this world with a few little weak points. And when life is difficult, those weak points need support or they're going to fall apart. And all my weak points have blown up. I have glasses on my head. I stopped wearing glasses after energy work, and it was working actually on a past childhood sexual trauma from about the age of 3. It fixed my eyesight. I didn't need my glasses anymore. But just recently, I've been a little bit triggered working with some particular people, and I'm also working with a psychologist who specializes with children. And as well as what I can see with my mind's eye multidimensionally, my eyesight's just gone to shit again. So I'm using my glasses.
Wow.
One of my other weak points is the back of my neck. The stem there is one of the personal hologram points. I need to support, or else I have blowouts. I have migraines, neck pains, that sort of thing.
So you look at yourself and others, at least in regard to bringing alignment, and maybe more, as a hologram. Like you look at their holographic, which is and I'm just trying to understand, which is a hologram originating as a projection from that individual's higher self or soul.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not to say, you know, we're dense energy. That projection is in a 3D world where this is real.
Yeah.
You know, not to take it too far out of scope, but to understand that we are holographic. You know, if I work
Yeah.
on this part of my body, it's going to affect all the other parts of my body as well,
Right.
and my spirit, and my soul, and my higher self. So this is,
I mean, to me too, like, um, to me, every dimensional experience that I've had, you can call it whatever you want to call it, there's a type of physicality. It may not be as dense as this incarnation. Now, this is just my experience. I'm not saying, but what I'm trying to say is, in those experiences, there was something present that's also, I know, is present here. There's a certain feeling. There's a certain, like, anyone that's had an out of body experience or near death experience or even a deep dimensional experience, you know, something that's not physical, it doesn't feel like the body. But I know that's present here, right? Do you think that our ability to transfigure and transform, that we're on the cusp of that there are people maybe doing it or about to be able to transform or even teleport and that type of thing? You think there's that possibility is coming on board anytime soon?
yeah, I believe it is. I think we're going to see things like that within the next 48 months, perhaps at the
Mm.
most, about two
Wow.
years. As I say, the technology developments are just amazing, and we can feel other densities in energy. As you say, you may feel another being or entity or see it or smell it.
Mm.
And then it's only a small step, technology wise, to be able to show that to us if that's what we want to do. As I said, just even like a biofield viewer, where I can now start to show that through technology. When people drop the belief systems that we can't do this ourselves
Right.
and rest solid in the knowing that we can, they will find that they can do a lot of things themselves, and then
Do
technology will come on board to try and prove it to the rest.
so okay, like say in the example of self-healing. So would it
Yeah.
be like a scenario of people will reach a certain point where they'll be able to tap in with their body, heal themselves, whatever you want to call it, and
Yeah.
that then technology will try to replicate that to introduce it to the rest of the masses? Is that what you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah. So it's got to be seen first for anyone with money or backing to be able to try and prove something.
Mhm.
And, there's people all around the world who'll throw money at people that can prove this sort of stuff. But the
Mhm.
proof they want's pretty hilarious too. Scientific studies need to be double blind, triple replicated, results recorded. But yet they can throw a vaccine out mighty quick without any
Well, that's what I was going to say. I don't know
any
where the
proof on board. So
yeah,
depends what they, as in the people in control, want to come out at
yeah,
the time. As I
yeah.
say, we can see this amount of the light spectrum with our
Oh,
eyes.
absolutely. I think it's
Yeah.
like something like 0.0005%, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that's right. So if we can
so,
tap into anything outside of that, that's unreal.
but I would think too that because even though it's a holographic experience, that there's still energy behind the holograph, and that
Mm.
let's just say, in each soul that raises its frequency and starts to experience these things that you're talking about, energetically impacts our entire hologram. And regardless of whether science is getting behind it or whatever the case is, that information is getting through really to everybody.
That's
It's
right. Yeah.
becoming more and more available to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So if I, as a practitioner or energy worker, did not work on one more client and only worked on myself, I would
Mm-hmm.
still be raising the consciousness of the
Right.
world's people, just because I'm one part of that hologram.
Do,
So,
do, do,
ev-
I'm
Sorry?
sorry. I get this picture in my mind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
That's
you.
okay.
I
That's
was going to
okay.
say, with the way the level of engagement you have in your local community, okay, and even functioning, running a household. I mean, you do a lot of everything. Uh,
Yeah.
so like, do you talk to people in your community the way we're talking now? Does anyone ever
Um,
say? Do you ever have those kind of conversations? I mean, is there other people in the community that you're involved with that are, at the point where they can discuss this kind of thing?
yeah, there are. There's hidden little nuggets of gold everywhere in the bodies you would least expect it as well. So again, it's just being open to have these conversations with people. They'll end up standing right in front of you and they'll start the conversation. You don't even have to. And it's really funny. I live in a cute little village of about 2,000 people, mostly farmers, who, they are so grounded. Um,
Sounds like a
Many of
good
them
place.
have. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I mean, we're attached to a satellite city, which is a little bit bigger, of 50, 60,000 people that I work with as well. But it's funny, the demographics of the population. There's a lot of agriculture. There are a lot of religious people as well, which are starting to hold conversations outside of the boundaries of their religion, which is unheard of an 80-year-old woman who's been
Yeah.
Catholic all of her life who now says, no, fuck all that. I'm I've had my eyes open to what else is possible. So, yeah, I have hope, much hope. And sorry, I'm just moving my phone. It's overheating there. We're getting a little bit.
I've got I've got an 80-year-old friend here in Arkansas, real interesting man, and he's into everything. I mean, because in the South, in the Southern U.S., it's a it's called the Bible Belt, and it's
Yeah,
very, Baptist, some are Methodist. I mean, but they're very strong religious, cultural, programming or whatever you want to call it. But this guy's like into everything. He's like into Q. He's into aliens. He's into. I mean,
yeah.
in other words, his mind is open and goes to what you're saying about even people that are in that age group and regardless of the conditioning they've had culturally, up to this
Yeah.
point.
It's even nice to hear that, a lot of people have told me even within their churches, no matter what the
Oop, she popped out. Her battery went dead. What a cool lady. What a cool lady. I put up her website. I forgot what it was called. Mind Your Matter. I think it was mindyourmatterhealing.com. But you can look her up on Facebook, Fiona Carthew. I think I said that right. Carthew. Yeah. Carthew. And yeah, she's very cool. We'll get her back on again in 2021. And I'll give her a second. Show was about over anyway. We're going to jump back on here within the hour. Oh, Joseph Lamb. We need to do an impromptu show. Maybe that fall right in line with today's shows. I'll hit you up. I'm going to take a break and I'll hit you up. Thank you so much, beloved, beautiful, brave sister Fiona. And until the next time, we'll be back a little bit later with some SOULOGY mix. Probably go for a few hours, maybe 7 to 8 hours. And or maybe doing an impromptu show with someone like Joseph Lamb. Something in the flow. All right. See y'all later. Take care.